I'd like to call to order the December 13th, 2021 meeting of the Lowell Historic Board. We have one item on tonight's public hearing agenda. That is item DLHD-22-14, 657 Middlesex Street, the Lowell Boys and Girls Club building. An application for a historic permit by Patrick Ty for exterior rehabilitation, construction of additions, and associated site improvements pursuant to the Lowell Historic District Act. If the applicant would like to step forward and make your presentation.
So I'm Joe Hungler, I'm the executive director of the club, and I'll just briefly give you an overview of the project, and then Patrick is much more expert in all the other things that you want to hear about. So it's appropriate to be in front of the historic board. The club's been around since 1900. It started over by the old Richardson Hotel over where the Lord Overpass is no longer an overpass now, and moved around a few times over by Hafner's from 1913 until about 73 or 4 when we moved over here. And you know, the funny thing is that yes, we now serve girls, and there's a lot of things that have changed, but back then it was cane chairs and teaching kids how to cobble shoes. And now the technology we're teaching kids is a little bit different with robotics and music recording. And but we're still focused on building relationships with kids, serving those who need us most. Our vision is about ending generational poverty. So we want to make sure that kids have the tools they need to have a good career and to be able to have equal access to opportunities. And I think that that is a lot of what comes into this building. So Patrick's going to talk about the design, but the design came from youth voice primarily. Yes, he talked to the parents. The parents said, look, we want safety. The rest of it, we don't care. The staff were very pragmatic in what they talked to Patrick about. From the kids' point of view, they said, we want something that doesn't look or feel like a school. We want someplace that's going to look like a future workplace to us, in a place where they can build a career. And much like the mills had the highest technology in the country back when, and we had the UMass Lowell, whatever it was called back then, you know, the technology college, we try to put our kids in the path to doing that now. And you know, when we started, you can look at the old newspaper articles and you could tell teen voice was really important. In this project, they're the ones who voted on the design pieces that Patrick talked about. Now, obviously, just like back then, there's boundaries. We don't let them, you know, the slide from the club over to the zip line from the club over to Western Ave Studios didn't make it. The slide on the roof going down to a rooftop pool didn't make it, all those kind of things. But really, for us, the key part of this project, from going from serving almost 300 kids a day to almost 600 kids a day, is that we really want to become a place for teens, and teens decide where they go. And it needs to be an inviting place for our teens to walk into, what they think's inviting, not what a 51-year-old executive director thinks is inviting, you know? Or even a guy who's living in LA and one of the best architects in the world, you know, it doesn't matter. It matters what teenagers in Lowell think is going to make them want to walk into the Boys and Girls Club. And that's really what the focus of our design was, along with safety and being practical. And we got to raise all this money, so it's on a tight budget. So I'll hand it over to Patrick, but appreciate your time.
Thanks, Joe. Good evening, everybody. Let's see if this works. So, Steve, my clicker isn't working. You might have to advance it for me. This isn't working. So, good evening, everybody. My name is Patrick Ty, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight to present this project to you. Thanks for.
I think you're allowed to take your mask off when you're far enough away from everybody.
Thanks.
People want something to hear. Is that correct, Steve? Is that? Okay.
At public meetings, at council meetings, when people are speaking, we do want them to take it off.
I was told to take it off when I was doing the other meetings. But if somebody's uncomfortable, that's fine too.
Thanks for having me tonight. Thanks for having us tonight. Pleasure to be here. We've been working on this project for a couple years now. We met with Steve last spring, I think it was, and we received some feedback then. We've had feedback from lots of different groups along the way. Joe's vision. We've met a lot with the club kids, the club parents, the building committee at the Boys and Girls Club, and then here at City of Lowell, we've received approvals from Planning Commission and other approvals. This is our last approval before we submit for building and safety for our permit. So we're pretty excited about that, and I'll walk you through the project and explain what we're doing. Steve, if you could, if you could just go to that site plan right there, that's great. So the site plan is, as everyone knows, the project's on Middlesex Street and it backs up to the Pawtucket Canal. The historic park is taking over a piece of the canal walkway adjacent to the property, which changes our site a little bit, which I can explain in another slide. Let's go to the next slide, Steve, please. So this is the club as it is. The existing club was built in 1972. It's approximately 38,000 square feet. So our goal, first and foremost, is to renovate the club and to bring it up to today's standards. The club was built in the 70s for, as Joe said, boys. Now it serves boys and girls. And it serves a whole number of services that were not in place in the 70s. So it's a completely different animal at this point, and the building needs to essentially be rebuilt. Next slide, please, Steve. So the pink shows an annex that was built in the 80s. This is about 5,000 square feet. It's 2 stories. But this piece of the building also is woefully inadequate. The floor plates don't align. It doesn't meet ADA. It needs to essentially be rebuilt. So this piece will be rebuilt. Next slide, please, Steve. And then the purple, or the, what color is that? Violet, I guess. Pieces show the new additions. So there's a 2-story addition on the side of the building, and then the front of the building, we're adding a 1-story addition. So we want to bring the building out to meet Middlesex Street and to give the building more of a presence. Next, please, Steve. And this shows everything together. So if you add it up, the existing building 38, the annex 5, and then the new additions 12, total square feet for the whole project is about 56,000 square feet. Next, please, Steve. So this is the site plan, and as I mentioned, the historic park is adding, or will have, a canal walkway along the Pawtucket Canal, which will be quite beautiful, but it does limit our access into the back of the property, so we lost some parking back there when that happened, and our goal is to kind of reclaim as much parking as we can. At the front of the site, there's a building that the Boys and Girls Club bought in the 70s or 80s, and the police, there was a local police precinct located there up until recently, and the goal is to remove that building and to put more parking back. So with that, we're adding 12 spaces. So we're going from 25 spaces in the front up to 33 spaces. So we're trying to, it's an attempt to add more parking. We're still a little bit below what we need. We were granted a variance for parking. So that's the parking situation. And then the colors, the gray is existing, the pink is the annex, and the violet is the new additions to be added. Next, please. And this diagram just shows the detailed parking lot / landscaping for the front. Right now it's pretty bland, so we want to add a lot of permeable surfaces to integrate landscaping. Next, please. We work closely with Jane Calvin here in Lowell, and she helped us out with our planting plan. So you can't really see the drawing, but at the front we have a series of trees, and it was very important for Jane that we didn't have a monoculture. So along the street we have Zolkovas, and then in the parking landscape lot we have Katsuras, sweet gums, and Yoshino cherries. At the back of the lot where it's shady, we have river birches aligning the canal walkway, and shady plants in the back and more sunny plants in the front. So a lot of thought went into the landscaping. And I should note, show up later, at the back of the lot, that part that's now cut off by the canal walkway, we see that as a series of outdoor rooms that the club can now occupy. So the club will open up to the back, and those become play spaces, outdoor gardens, and outdoor meeting spaces. Next, please. Okay, so I'll walk you through the plans a bit. This is the ground level, and again, the purple are the new additions, the white's existing, and the pink is the annex. And you can see in this slide the upper level. And can you go to the next level, please, Steve? And then this is the lower level where the gymnasium is. The pool area is located on the right. The pool will no longer be used. It hasn't been used the last 8 years. So it's our attempt to turn that into a multi-purpose space in a cafeteria that will be adjacent to the new kitchen, which is located at the lower level, adjacent to the new loading zone, which is located off of the alley. Next, please. Okay, so the building is seen as a series of buildings within buildings, different entities, and you can see they're color-coded here. So the magenta is the arts, and the blue is sports and rec. The pale orange, I guess, is the teen center, and then we have admin. So we have distinct zones within the buildings, and the idea was that each of which have their own identity. So it was important that we kind of mark them or code them or give them their own kind of signature, identity, presence within the overall club. Next, please. So diagrams on the left describe the concept. And again, we're working with the existing and we're adding on to it. So we have this idea of this kind of central space we call the hub, and that is the connector. And from that space, all things can be accessed. So the image on the right is the hub at the lower level. We added, and again, this is part of the existing building. So we added this kind of hole through the floor plate to connect those two hubs vertically. So there's a hub on the ground level and a hub on the lower level. And as I mentioned, they serve as a connector, but they also serve as a means to kind of unify the whole club. The way the club is now, it's a series of cut-up spaces, all kinds of small rooms. It's very labyrinth-like, not ideal for monitoring or keeping an eye on kids. So with the new club, it's much more open and accessible, and transparency was kind of a big thing with the new design. So that was a concept. Next, please. And then the floor plan. So here you can see this is the entry level. I got to point out this. So this is how the kids would access the club, and they're surrounded by admin. When we interview the kids, a lot of times they said that the best part about coming to the club was being greeted at the front door by so-and-so or so-and-so. So it's important that this be kind of a safe zone for the kids, but also secure. You can see like a lock, right? So it was very important to Joe and to the staff that not just anyone can walk in. So this is kind of an entry sequence for the kids and for anyone into the club. Yellow is the hub, the hole that connects vertically. Green is classrooms. The pink is a multi-purpose theater space. And then on the upper level, this is the teen center. The teens have their own entry. They wanted their own kind of common space, seen as separate building. So we achieved that for them here. And then these are spaces open to below, open to the gym below, open to the multi-purpose space below. Oh, can't hear me. Sorry. One more down, Steve, please. And then this is the lower level. The gymnasium, and then this is the space that was once the pool that will now be a multi-purpose space in the cafeteria. The new kitchen is located here off of Eagle Court. So this is loading, trash, recycle, transformer. All that stuff is located here off of Eagle Court. Blue is physical fitness. The gym, we don't have to do much to the gym because it's been taken care of over the years, but we are adding some more windows to get natural light. And then the pink is arts. So this is area for entertainment, and this is for the arts makerspace. The makerspace space opens up to the back garden. And then the renderings that show the building. This would be the view from Middlesex Street. Again, it was really important to bring the club out to the street. Right now you drive by and you don't even see the club because it's set so far back, so we wanted the building to have more of a presence. This is the multi-purpose theater space. This is the main entry for the club. And then this is the teen center on the left, adjacent to Clemente Park. Next. This is a view at the back of the club. This would be the back, or the new front, as we call it. This is the canal walkway that will be in place in the future. And we wanted to keep the existing building and the brick intact, although we wanted to give it some, we wanted to freshen it up. We added new windows, banners, lighting. The cafeteria multi-purpose space. The idea is that we would clad it with a graphic to make a connection to the Western Avenue Studios, which is located across the canal. This is a placeholder. This is not the image of the mural, but the idea that there would be an art piece here would be important to the club and to the kids, and then to reference the art community across the way. Next, please. This is the front elevation, the main entry, the multi-purpose theater, and the teen center. Next. We can go through these relatively fast. This would be the side. This is the multi-purpose theater. This is Eagle Court, existing building. This is access to loading, trash, recycle, transformer. The pool area that will now be a multi-purpose space, and then the back garden opening to the canal. This is the back elevation, the new graphic wrapping this portion of the back. Most of the building stays intact. We're renovating, or fixing or reinvigorating the brick. There you go. To bring that brick back, because it actually is, it's a veneer, but it's quite beautiful. And then to break it up with some landscaping, some banners, lights. And then this is the 2-story addition that has a connection to Clemente Park. Next, please. And then this is the elevation fronting Clemente Park. It was important that we make that connection with the park. We wanted this to be very transparent. So from the Boys and Girls Club, the kids could see what's going on in the park, but more importantly, from the park, the kids could see what's going on in the teen center and want to go in, want to be engaged, want to participate and be part of the club. Next, please. So these are just elevations, existing elevation and the proposed elevation at the front. Next. Again, the existing at the side and the proposed at the side. Next. Existing at the side and proposed at the side with the new 2-story addition. Next, please. And then some interior renders. This shows the hub, the space that is the connector, that kind of central piece within the club. Next. And then this is the teen center, a scheme that shows the interior of the teen center. And I have a video. Can you play that, please, Steve? Thank you. We've been through many iterations of this project, and we've gone. Yep. And the project's evolved over 2 years. We've cut back a bit, and we're presenting to you a scheme that works with the budget, one that we feel confident that we can build and achieve.
I'll also note that Patrick grew up in Lowell and actually went to the club on Middlesex Street when he was younger. Did I see you there?
Probably. Yeah, it's just an animation. It shows the piece. Yeah, there we go. It'll get the point across. So this is the main entry at Middlesex Street. We were playing with the vision of a home. When we interviewed the kids, they drew things for us, and a lot of times this idea of a home came up. So the idea was that it's like a home, and we use this kind of shingle texture to reference the shingles of a home, essentially. That's where this form came from. And like I mentioned earlier, we wanted each of these to have their own kind of identity. The teen center having the most of its own identity because that's what the teens wanted. So this piece is kind of seen off to the side and has its own entrance. And it opens up to the park. So there's lots of transparency within, making that connection to Clemente or Palin Park. This is the annex that will be rebuilt in the same place, existing building with new metal cladding, the new front entry that extends up so it has some height and presence. It's also pulled out closer to Middlesex Street. Also part of the addition at the front is admin, which is here, also clad with a standing seam metal siding. And then this is the multi-purpose theater. It's a black box theater, but it could be used for the public or it could be used for the kids. And there's all kinds of ideas for programming that space. This is Eagle Court that's owned by the city. New access, loading, trash, recycle, transformer, garden off of the kitchen. This is the pool area, now a multi-purpose cafeteria space wrapped with a mural. Pawtucket Canal. This is the National Park walkway, future walkway. And then the idea is we restore the brick, enliven it with landscape and some architectural features, and then make use of these new outdoor rooms that are seen as an extension of the club. This is the 2-story addition, which is the teen center at the top, and at the bottom we call it the maker space. It's essentially an arts room, and the idea that they could extend their activities on the outside as well. And these are just the renders that I showed before of the hub space that connects to the multi-purpose space. This is the kitchen where the kids get their food, and then this is the teen center, 2nd story overlooking the park. So that's what I have to show you today. Regarding the integrity of the canal wall at the back, someone had that comment, and we did look into that in the trees. The soils came back. Well, we're still looking into it to make sure that everything will be okay. We will add root barriers for the trees so that the trees won't extend into the canal wall. That's something that we'll definitely have to do.
All right, thank you very much. Before we get into board questions, open up to anyone here from the public who wishes to speak in favor of this proposal. 2nd call, 3rd call. With that, if anyone is here to speak in opposition to this proposal, 2nd call, 3rd call. Okay. With that, I will now open it up to board questions and comments.
I'll go first. So, great presentation. I mean, I'm an architect by profession, and I appreciate your presentation really well. The scale of the building, very thoughtful. It has like this museum feel to it, which I think is great. It has like this timeless quality. I'm just curious on. I'm just curious regarding. I know we had spoken about. You said the parking. You went to 33 spaces and you got variance You got a variance for that? Okay. It would be good to, I mean, I love your renderings as well. It would be good to see like an evening rendering as well. I'm not sure if activities would be taking place, but I mean, the amazing effort you went to really design, again, it's a fantastic design, I think. And at night or during the evening, it would be great to understand, like, how the building, looks at nighttime with the lighting and things like that. But yeah, I'm just very appreciative of the time and effort you took to really design I think it's a very thoughtful design, and it fits well the way how you use the existing building and made those different additions to it.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I don't have, I was gonna say, I don't have any questions. I just think it's a great project. I think it'll completely transform the entrance to that neighborhood, so thank you.
I just want to add, I really appreciate that you worked with Jane Calvin. That's definitely the way to win me personally over on a project. If there's anyone in Lowell whose opinion I trust, it's Jane Calvin. And I love the trees that you've chosen.
Thank you. She's great.
And much like Aurora, I just want to say it's a great presentation. It's a great project. Having taken tours of the inside of the club, I know the choppiness that you're talking about, and the transformation is amazing, considering that you're still keeping kind of the shell of the existing building. Visually, from the outside and the inside, it really just looks completely transformed, and it's impressive, and I think it looks fantastic.
Yeah, I think given this building's location within the district, it did offer opportunity to do something contemporary and modern with the additions and with the renovations. So I'm really glad to see something new coming into the district that has a fresh language to it. I'm just curious, a lot of the changes you're making are very kind of rectilinear and angular in form. But then at the main entrance, we have these two arches. What was the origin of the arch form for the entrance?
I think we went back and forth with maybe 20 different forms for the front piece. And a lot of it, we had meetings with kids, and they drew all these things of what they thought the club meant to them. And, a lot of them were like these really simple kind of iconic forms, like the iconic house form. That's where that and the shingles came from, and a lot of them had arches, believe it or not. And we kind of ran with it. We there was an innocence and a playfulness, and it kind of evolved. That's where that came from.
Okay, thanks. All right, if there are no further questions or comments, I'm open to a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the historic permit for the exterior rehab, construction of additions and associated site improvements at 657 Middlesex Street in the downtown Lowell Historic District with the 6 bullets that are referenced in the memo. Okay.
I'd like to entertain an addition to the
Sure.
Is it on? So I'd like to entertain an addition, little condition to the motion, and that is, in the past, this is a pretty large-scale project that is really adjacent to the canal, and I think it would be an appropriate project to entertain some vibration monitoring along the canal. I know we've had, there have been a couple of calls to our historic architect about the size of the equipment and the activities near the canal. And I think along with the equipment and the staging areas, which I'm assuming you'll be in that back portion as well, close to the canal, it might be a good idea to entertain something like that, which would involve, basically photographing before construction, what the canal wall looks like now, and then asking the contractor to monitor that during the, up until the end stages of the project. And I think that can be done various ways. I'm not super familiar with, the various equipment that's used for that or monitoring, but I know that a few years back, the Park Service, we had involved in the high school project, and we asked for that type of monitoring as well along the canal there. It just seems sort of something that would be appropriate and a good idea to incorporate into such a large-scale project in the future. So it would be photographing the area behind the property to take careful note of the conditions, existing conditions, because things could change. There'll be, I'm assuming, a lot of heavy equipment back there and staging, and not a bad idea. So I'd like to entertain that.
So just so we're clear, Elsie, so you're talking about having the before documentation so that we can ensure that
Yeah.
if during the project or after the project, we see that there's
Yeah.
some shifting of the blocks in the wall, that's been documented, and we
Yep.
can address it to make sure it's brought
Yeah.
back to original
Yeah.
conditions.
The contractor, whoever gets on board, that would be included in what they'd be doing.
Right.
Is,
And then, so there's that, but you also talked about the vibration monitoring. Is there
yeah,
like a threshold that, that's been identified for kind of safety or for negative, that,
the threshold would be like, reporting on the existing condition and watching changes. In that, the baseline would be the existing condition as it is. And then, like I said, I'm
Not
not,
to be confused, but so would they have to show us? So who would be the,
the contractor could do like a weekly monitoring. When they have their construction meetings, they could, take a look and report, no adverse effect at this point, and then report back. In minutes, it'd be in the minutes.
Yeah.
So if something changed, they would report back.
I know as part of the Tiger Bridge project, in certain areas, like there are actually vibration monitor sensors set up on the Moody Street feeder gatehouse. For example, when the city was working on the bridge right over the canal there. I know many, many years ago, there was a new house proposed for up in the Belvedere Hill neighborhood district. And one of the conditions there was that the contractor would monitor some of the surrounding homes to make sure foundations were not affected, things like that. So it isn't uncommon. This is something that you and the historical architect had talked about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
David Lieb, our
Okay.
historic architect, was saying that we'd had some of that monitoring, excuse me, at the high school.
yeah, I don't disagree. I just want to make sure we're being clear to them. I don't think, what is the condition? Is it vibration monitoring? Is it a physical thing that's going to track, or is it documenting before and after pictures that we would then decide if something was wrong?
It would be creating, whoever is proposed, the contractor proposed, creating a vibration monitoring plan, whatever that is. And my recommendation would be to, photograph ahead of time, and there might be some electronic type of device, and physically looking at the actual wall on a timeline, and just recording as the work goes along from the beginning of the project to the end.
Is this something David was willing to work on the side to monitor as well, to keep an eye on things?
We didn't talk to that nature, but,
Okay.
yeah, I know what you're saying. You're searching for a vehicle, like what is the? Yeah.
Maybe something could be conditioned that says, prior to commencement of work, vibration monitoring plan be submitted to the administrator and the National Park Historical Architect for review, and something like that.
I wouldn't entertain
I mean, it's something I think that's generally known in the industry, how to monitor these things
Right.
nearby. If Troy could answer, I mean, is this vibration monitoring?
I mean, right, so that would be part of, I imagine, the building permit process as well as part of like safety, because, once construction is taking place, then, there is a responsibility not to disrupt existing conditions. So the contractor, the GC would have to submit something to the building department, just saying, and yes, and, having a monitoring and like updating, whether the meetings are weekly, usually they'll be weekly in a project this size.
Right.
We'll have weekly meetings, so, yeah, we could just request that information, but I'm sure the building inspector would be privy to that information as well.
So request of the information back to the city
Yes,
or the board.
yeah.
If I could introduce Richard Feldman, he's the owner's project manager. He might have some insight.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, how you doing? I'm Steve. Oh, really? Trying to hold the place up here. So let me see if I can help you from the construction background here. Typically, vibration monitors are put, as Steve mentioned, around houses during construction if heavy vehicles are going and people can see and feel on a daily basis that their house is shaking. In this case here, we had the canal blocks. That's the key thing. So I think what I would propose, which we would do anyway, is kind of a means and methods. Certainly doing the survey beforehand. We know some of the equipment now. We're just pulling together our contractors right now at this point. But we'll continue to monitor on a weekly basis as equipment comes through. A lot of it is by pictures, dealing with the parks. Certainly, we're trying to work with the parks anyway on lots of items as we do our construction. It's not quite the same thing as a vibration monitor.
Right.
Because there's nobody there watching it who's impacted. The canal is kind of a non-entity. But I think the means and methods and process, certainly with the building department, with the parks, we'll watch it for ourselves also because we part and parcel to the whole development of this project.
Right.
So I think it's easier to say certainly a survey before, during the process, after. The parks is not going to go away. They're going to be watching this at the same time, as you know, and kind of a means and methods how we'll do it. But we will be attentive to it.
Okay.
I think in terms of your nomenclature for this approval, I think it's really having a means and methods of doing a survey before, during the construction, and after, making sure everything is copacetic for the project.
Thank
That
you.
helps in some direction for you guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's reasonable,
Right.
yeah, thank you.
Now,
And reporting back.
reporting back, there'll be paperwork, paper trails. We do have construction meeting, but that's the easiest way of doing it. And we certainly appreciate your help, in the commission. I've worked with Steve before. This will be a great project. Really will.
Yeah.
But thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, so should we revise that motion?
Do I have to do that as the maker of the motion? I accept the substitute condition to submit means and methods. Yeah, the additional condition for means and methods for a survey before, during, and after construction. And I know it's part of your building permit, but I'd just like for the record that a copy should be sent to Steve, the administrator.
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, chair votes aye. Congratulations, thank you very much.
Thank you
Good luck
very
with the
much.
project.
Awesome project. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can
Yeah,
use this
just-
table.
We want the model.
Can you imagine that in your living room?
Recording stopped.
They're well made.
Test case for other big projects.
Patrick, you should have all of your flash drives, all of your.
Central River is a right now. Over there, and it's like all that dry stone.
Now, foam core doesn't.
Joe, is this been in your office just sitting there?
Yeah. So it's like, I think it's.
Good night, thank you.
Thanks.
Is it going to be on display at the club?
What's that?
I said, is that on display at the club now?
It's in the administrative part because
we brought it down to show the kids, but leaving it there, kids like to touch and
Yeah.
feel.
It's not a good idea. Not for the integrity of the model, at least.
Well, thank you all, nice to meet some of you. And
Thank you.
Have a great bye. Thank you.
Some of you might remember Rick was involved in the YMCA over on Thorndike Street, the additions and that's how,
Oh, okay.
anyway.
Recording in progress.
All right, well, that concludes the public hearing portion of our agenda. We can now move on to approval of the minutes for our meeting of October 18th, 2021. Does anyone have any comments or edits to make on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from October 18th, 2021.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval passes. All right, other business. Steve, do you want to cover any key items under this?
Business is informational, updating, it's supposed to read a little bit of everything. So if there's anything on there that's jumping out at you or you have a question about, please feel free. I know that I did note the various minimum maintenance projects, of which there's one more I'm adding to that, which is the Simpson block is there. All of these are getting written up because this work you can't do in the winter, obviously.
Right.
So this will be hopefully with the goal of springtime permitting and have it all wrapped up in the spring so that it's done, ready, summer is good, summer music series, folk festival. I mean, it should look good all the time, but, you know, we're still emerging from the pandemic. But, I mean, they're gonna be on a short leash on these, as far as I'm concerned, getting some of this done.
Okay.
And then, I mean, let me see. The Gorham Street buildings were supposed to be here tonight. It's just, you know, drafts people and architects, they're trying to get it was just some simple things that I requested, making sure the windows were consistent, things like that. But they've been busy dealing with some of the structural issues, especially on 80 over there. So, but those are moving along. They're not in any danger of failing. We're working on an affordable housing project over at 733 Broadway. I know Troy's looked at that a little bit. David has at the park. Jeffrey has as well. They're before the ZBA actually tonight down the hall. They were at the planning board. They've been continued till later in February. So there's not as much of a time crunch on us to get the design nailed on that, but we're making some really good progress on heights and scale and mass. And the architect is Davis Square on Somerville, Cliff Bomer, and I was just talking with him this afternoon, and he's been their whole team has been very pleased with our collaborative process with them, which has been, you know, really nice to hear when, you know, you hear those things. We're doing City Hall stained glass presentation for Troy and Christine on Thursday evening. So, you know, again, it's a big amount of money, large amount of money, but there's priorities and we can look at those, and if anything has to be shifted around. It would just be nice to get the project going, to start, to see some of it happening. Open close signs, we're gonna get some more of those for people, which are nice to hand out to folks. And the sun sign, the sun and the building owner and we have agreed that after the first of the year, we're gonna have a sit down and do some negotiating on getting that sign, hopefully transferred to the building and then getting the money in place from some source or sources to actually do the work and have that lit. It won't take that long for the work to start once it can be finished, once it can get it mobilized. So I'm just waiting for an up-to-date estimate on the estimate, which is a year old, and you know, go from there. But it's people are excited about that. I mean, even though it's like I've said to people, it's Lowell Sitco sign, and others have picked up on that too, like in Kenmore Square. So I may ask one or two of you to come in on the meetings, just so that we've got multiple parties in there, and you know, I think it'll be a good thing. It's just something I'm very, very committed to that we can't lose up on that roof. The Bell Memorial, which got hit by a car in October, has already been repaired as of last week. which, as some things go with insurance cases, somewhat amazing. But, I had the police report, got it to Jane Calvin, who doubles as the Heritage Partnership's treasurer. That's Jane's involvement. Even though she's Parks and Conservation Trust, my other hat is Heritage Partnership on the board, and she's our treasurer. So she was able to work with the adjuster. I was able to work with Will Soucy at Original Installer, and it all got done last week. So that was good to see that happen, pretty quickly. And, that's about it, moving into the holidays. And we've got, like I said, Gorham Street, Broadway Street, and a couple of other projects percolating as well out there. And it's really, it's nice to see that area on Middlesex Street get a lot more attention now. Even Gorham is around the corner, but the 78 Middlesex Street, the 160 is almost finished being terracotta clad. The new owner of the 2 Dunnigan properties and 190 to 2 something Middlesex is committed to working with some good tenants that are already starting to move into some very long vacated or vacant spaces over there. And you actually see a lot of foot traffic from the Justice Center coming up and down Middlesex and Jackson. So it's nice to see, some of these projects that have not been, the buildings that haven't been addressed ever or in a long time happen. So, that's about it for on there, I guess, unless people have something.
Great, thanks, Steve. Anyone else have anything to bring up before we adjourn?
Everyone has the 2022 schedule?
Yes, thanks for sending that around.
And everything's already locked in for this room again. I did that like months ago, because you don't want to get beat by some other
All right.
conditions at a punch.
Oh, boy.
Well, it's regal.
Yes.
I mean, we used to, every once in a while, we would meet years ago, and Jeffrey remembers this, is we would meet in the library meeting room in the ground floor, which was a fantastic space to meet in, because that JFK conference room can just get really jammed and awkward. And that's what's nice about, being in here, surrounded by, the earliest mayors and the city, and it just feels appropriate to be in. And George behind you there.
Yeah, of course.
Anyway. So.
All right, thank you. Motion to adjourn?
I second. Oh.
All right, we'll see everyone next year.
Thank you. Yeah, see you next year.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, it's already here.